Hello everyone. This morning I'd like to show you how to make a 16-inch zip back for a 16-inch cushion. Now I'm making a 16-inch back to match the 16-inch patchwork front that I made in a previous video. Of course this 16-inch back will match any cushion you decide to make. So let's get started. Now to start with, I've cut two pieces, 16 inches by 8.5 inches, and the extra half an inch is to allow me to turn it in and set the zip. I've also got here a 12-inch nylon zip. Now for a cushion of this size, 12 inches is adequate because it's easy enough to fold up your cushion pad and push it through that gap. Now what I'm going to do first of all, I'm going to lay my two pieces right sides together, lined up against that one long edge. And now I'm going to take my zip and I'm going to centralise it along the top. It doesn't need to be at the edge, just about an inch back from the edge. You can centralise it by eye, you don't have to measure it. And take a piece of tailor's chalk and mark where the staple is at the end of the zip, like so, and where the end of the slider is at the other end of the zip, like so. And then get a pin, any sort of pin will do. I've got these long flower headed ones which are great, but they do tend to bend a bit. And just put in a pin at 90 degrees to the edge. Now you're ready to sew the edges before you put your zip in. Now I'm going to stitch the two edges of the cushion pieces to allow me to leave a gap to put my zip in. So I've still got my sewing machine here threaded up with a neutral thread, because even though my zip is white, my fabric is a sort of bluey grey colour, and to have a line of white stitching on that would really stand out. So I'm going to line up my presser foot with the first tailor's chalk mark that I made, which is here. I hope you can see that all right. And I'm going to line up the edge of my fabric with a 15mm. Now you might have a machine, if it's an older machine, it might say 5/8 of an inch. So line it up with that. So this presser foot is always getting away from me. And I'm just going to do a few stitches and then a few reverse stitches, because I don't want it bursting open at the edges of the zip. And I'm going to sew to the end. A few more reverse stitches. And break the thread. Now at the other end, I'm going to sew from the edge to the tailor's chalk. Again, line it up with a 15mm or 5/8 of an inch line on your needle plate, and then a few stitches forward, a few stitches back, up to the tailor's chalk, a few stitches reverse, and there you go. We're now ready to press to put the zip in. Now I'm ready to press my cushion back, ready to accept the zip. So before I open it out and press it, I'm just going to give it a bit of a run over just to flatten the seams, a bit of steam. And now I'm going to open it out with the wrong side upwards. And what I need to do is, first of all, finger press these seams open, the bits that are stitched at the end, like so, and then all the way along the same 1/2 inch, 5/8 of an inch, 15mm, whatever it was you used on your needle plate. Okay, press that open. Like so. And then we're going to turn it over and do the same on the right side. As you see, this is where your zip is going to go. There we are, all pressed, ready to put the zip in. Now I'm ready to pin my zip in place. Now I'm doing it on the ironing board because it's a good height for me for pinning it in, and also I'm going to put one of these. Now this is a plastic quilter's ruler. If you don't have one of these, something hard, plastic, something that the pins are not going to get stuck into is ideal. So if you put this under where you're going to put your zip, it's much easier to get the pins in. Because if you put it on a cutting mat or the ironing board without the ruler, the pins will keep getting stuck and it's a real nuisance. Okay, so I've got my zip here, my 12-inch zip for my 16-inch cushion back. And I'm going to put this in the gap here. Okay, sort of letterbox that I've made for my zip. And I'm going to have a flap over my zip. Now some people do like to just put the two sides of the fabric either side of the zip and have the teeth showing. I'm not so keen on that. I prefer to have a flap over my zip. So just pull your zip back so the slider is just there. Now I've got my zip in here lined up with the teeth lined up against one edge of the sort of letterbox that I've made. I keep calling it that because that's what it makes me think of. Okay, I've got the slider up at one end. I've just tried to fold that back a bit, the top end, just so you can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to take a pin, one of my trusty flower head pins, and put it in at the top next to the slider. Now try and keep the pins quite close to the zip. Okay. If I can get hold of the pins, that is. Another pin. And so on to the end. And it's also a good idea at the top end here to put a pin in to hold down the tapes of the zip. So let's just put one in there, because if you start sewing and they fold backwards, you've got a lumpy bit and that's the last thing you want. Okay, so keep pinning down to the end. Now I've pinned down the side that is matching with the teeth, I'm going to pin the flap. So I just lay this over the zip and see if you should be able to feel the zip teeth through the flap. And I'm going to start pinning from this end again, making sure the zip tapes are lying flat. Let's put a pin in there. And I'm going to keep pinning all the way along, feeling for the teeth and putting the pin as close as possible to the teeth. So now I'm ready to machine stitch my zip. Now those of you who've been to my classes in the past or been sewing with me will know that I hate tacking. I really do, and unless it's really necessary I'll try and avoid it. But I would say in this case, tack your zip in. If you've not done many zips or you're a beginner, tack it in and then take the tacking out when you finish the machine stitching. It will make it so much easier because it does slide around while you're stitching. So now here we are ready to stitch. I've got my zipper foot fitted. Now as this is a Bernina, it's a slightly different zipper foot than you see on a lot of machines. But if you do have a Bernina, make sure your needle's in the right position before you start stitching, because I've broken quite a lot of needles doing this. Okay, so I've got my presser foot on the side where the fabric meets the teeth. Okay, I'm going to do that side first. I find that easier. So I'm going to stitch a few stitches forward. As that the edge of the cushion is going to be caught up in the seam when you finish it, there's no need to do any reverse stitches. Okay, so take the first pin out, make sure that the tapes are lying flat. And when you get to the slider, pull the slider back by about 2 inches. This is of course where it's stuck. There we go. Pull it back by 2 inches. And then keep stitching up towards the slider, making sure that your teeth stay up against the edge of the fabric. And when you reach the slider again, lift your presser foot, close the slider, presser foot down again, make sure it's staying straight there, and carry on stitching to the end. Now I've come to the end of the side where the fabric meets the teeth, and whatever you do here, don't be tempted to just turn the corner and go up the other side. If you do that, you'll find it never meets quite right at the top, and you're bound to get a bit of a twist between one side and the other. So don't be tempted to do that. Just finish this side and then start at the top of the other side. I'm ready to stitch the side with a flap. I've moved my needle over to the other side of the foot. If you've got the sort of foot that you need to manually move around, depending which side you're moving now, it's time to do it now. If you're a Bernina owner, make sure you've moved your needle over to the other side so it doesn't hit the presser foot. Okay, so we're going to start much like before, but we're going to start a little way out from the seam here, because we've got more material in the flap. So if we start up here, we're going to end up having to bend out to get around the slider, and we don't want to have to do that. So the stitch, make sure you keep your zip tapes flat. And as before, I'm going to get almost to the slider, and then I'm going to stop, open the slider. Oh, it's a bit more cooperative this time. And while you're doing this, once you reach the teeth, make sure you feel the teeth and try and keep the flap straight over the teeth. Okay, just keep stitching. I'll take that pin out, just a little bit more, and then I'm going to put the needle down, press a foot up, close the slider, and stitch on to the end. And there we are, a nice neat zipped cushion back ready for your next cushion project. Now once you've stitched it, you might find there's a few little tucks and pleats. Don't panic about it and take it all out again. Just ease them out with your finger or your nail a little bit and then give it a little press. But if you do press it, make sure you don't let the iron rest on the teeth, because even through the fabric they will start to get welded together, and that really is a problem. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed what you saw, why not subscribe and take a look at some of my other sewing videos. All the videos in the Designer Cushion series are based on my book, How to Design and Make Fabulous Cushions. And if you'd rather read than watch, the book is available on Amazon. Thanks once again. Bye.